Hey, good morning. What's up, guys? Andrew Curry here for another installment of, how shall we say, this is kind of both a tip of the week and skills and drills kind of idea. Oftentimes players will get really stuck in directional organization. It seems as if learning the form is its own challenge, but then learning to get away from the form is even as big a challenge. So I'm going to demonstrate for you a couple of ideas that I come up with. Now, these ideas came to me when I was teaching a class for the visually impaired. What I found was they had great shape recognition. In other words, by touching me or by me asking them to do a simple idea like moving their arms in a clockwise circle to the right side of their body, that they could do very well. But it was much more difficult for them to orient themselves to the north, south, east, west axis. So what would wind up happening would be, we'd be pretty good here, but when they'd step out over here. And then they'd be along this organization. Okay, and I'd kind of be doing it that way. Or they wouldn't step out far enough so that their organization would be there. So that kind of brought to mind that, we do get pretty stuck. So one of the ways that you can, the tip of the week is that if you're doing your form along this line, okay, then do it along this line. All right, just change compass directions and see how it goes. Okay, you can do different compass directions for every shape that you do. Okay, and again, my recommendation would be to do this 3 movements at a time so that you get a little bit of that kind of idea. So you can do your ward off right, left, and right, roll away, press, and push. Come to class and we'll talk about those 3 movement segments. But here is a more interesting idea than just doing compass directions. So suppose we get through the first part, the beginning 1 and 2. Okay, so now we do ward off right. Now we can say, I'll do ward off left on the diagonal. Oh yeah, and then I can do ward off right here. I can do roll away, press, and push. And single whip, which naturally turns to the left. Okay, so there's an idea about how you can move around doing the form in a counterclockwise circle. The same thing can happen with the other side. So we can do it this way. We can say, oh yeah, I can do walking my shapes around in a right circle. Now it becomes a little harder when you start to turn left, but not really. You can figure it out. Okay. Okay, so that would be organizing your shapes, just moving in a right circle. And if you're really clever, you can do it any direction you want. Now, Chen Ching was fond of saying that he could do the entire form in his tiny little living room, which was about 4 by 6 foot square. So that's the idea. When you're moving, if you have an unweighted leg, you can put it anywhere you want. There's no Tai Chi god that's going to come down and smite you for not having your foot in exactly the right position. However, if you're going to move this foot, say I'm going to move it out to here, and I know that my next shape on that foot is going to be warding off to the right, I still have to make a good warding off to the right position. Okay, I still need to have the proper separation between my legs. So again, as I get on my right leg, if I'm what I call a little bit surfer, a little bit too close together, I'm going to need to move that right foot out and behind me so that I can have the proper stance. So you do need to know, what your proper stance is. You do need to know which foot the shape is developing out of. Okay, so tip of the week, move your shapes around a little bit. All right, I hope that's helpful, and I'll see you soon. Good luck and good practice.